Welcome to 2 Minutes About Time, the podcast that takes a look at the Richard Curtis film About Time, 2 minutes at a time. I'm Luke Allen, one of your hosts, and with me is Robert E.G. Black.
That would be me. And just a note, since it is the first Friday episode, there's only one episode, or 1 minute of the movie we'll be covering today.
Obviously, this will all be ever so slightly different next week when we have our guest on, but we'll give you the rough idea of how this show works. And this means that we're doing, 5 minutes each week. So we opened this minute with Tim lying in bed, which we discussed quite a lot at the end of last episode, as it's just an incredible jump from beforehand. And to go on to the dialogue, Tim says, "And so I woke up the next morning, hungover, ashamed of myself, and not realising it was the day that would change my life forever." I mean, that's always a bit of a cliche line, but it seems to work here. Yeah. And Kit Kat says, "Get up, stupid, Dad wants you." Hello, sexy pyjamas. And the pyjamas comes back in and out in a deleted scene later on. A deleted scene which I think, when we get round to that minute, I am very disappointed is cut out. Huh. And not just because Margot Robbie's in it, which is enough of a reason to be disappointed it's cut out. But yeah, it's just a very, very good moment. And then, pretty much straight after that, we cut to Tim walking through the corridor, and once again he matches the colours of the house.
Well, did you got to point out that Kit Kat falls on top of him on the bed, which is hilarious.
Oh, yeah. She almost looks as if she's about to fall asleep on top of him for a moment.
But then, Tim back out in the same hallway as before, and he blends in again.
And obviously the balloons are still there from the party. And, a little touch, considering it's December, is there's Christmas trees on the bookshelf, which I hadn't noticed before. And this is the point where the dad, who hasn't had a line yet, I don't think, he then says, Tim, come in, do sit down, which is very quickly commented on as being very formal.
Yeah, very formal.
And Bill Nighy is incredible at acting awkward and uncomfortable. He does that really well.
Like, he can't figure out how to stand, and then finally he just puts a hand on the chair.
I mean, that's, like, the entirety of The Girl in the Cafe is Bill Nighy acting awkward, pretty much. And he just feels so real as an actor. Like, he is one of my favourite actors. I think he's brilliant. And apparently, according to the BBC Radio 5 film show, is one of the celebrities that most people end up meeting in England. Like, there have been stories of people who've met him on, 3 different occasions at completely different parts of the country. And apparently he's a really nice guy, so I hope he'll eventually turn up in Shropshire, and I'll be able to say hi-ye to the Nighy. That doesn't sound as good as it did in my head.
No.
Now,
before we get to his dialogue, I wanted to mention this room. We do see the room a few more other times, but I want to talk about it because there's 2 things. He has 2 BB King posters on the wall, which will matter later.
Yeah, it does come up later on.
And also, by the wall, all of the books are turned with their spines toward the wall.
Oh yeah,
and I wondered if
weird.
those are just like the books he's already read a bunch of times and he's done with them, or what? Because I'm like, that is a weird way to store books.
It's like when a bookshop is, like a second-hand bookshop has not yet put out their stock.
Yeah.
Or even probably less that. It's more like a charity shop. A shop that doesn't really care about the books and is just putting them out in bulk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
even
like
then you think they'd turn them so you could see the spines.
Mm.
But he has a lot of books.
In terms of the colouring of the pages, a lot of them are either old or worn. So it suggests that either he owns a lot of old books or they are books that he's read before. Apart
from what I can see of his shelves, they're also not very organized either. So his books are just a chaos.
But it makes the room feel lived in.
Oh yeah.
You can perfectly tell that this is basically the dad's space. Like, this is his area. And once again, Tim blends in with the sofa here. Like, he's the same colour pretty much as the sofa.
And then he's framed so he's barely in the shot when the dad's talking too. It's the movie's deliberately making him blend in and disappear.
His hair matches the colours of the worn books, to be honest. I can say that because I'm ginger, so I get that privilege. Yes, and so the dad says, and we do find out that the dad's name is James later on in the film, but that's only mentioned once, and he's credited as Dad
Yep.
So we'll just refer to him as the dad, or as Bill Nighy, as I'm sure we'll cut between throughout this show. The dad says, well, yeah, this is an odd moment for me, because I had the same moment with my father when I just turned 21, and after it my life was never the same, so I approach it pretty nervously. And then Tim says, okay, when you're ready, it's all very mysterious. And then we conclude the dialogue this minute with, right, Tim, my dear son, and that's how we have our minute. But yeah, there's definitely more to discuss in this, and just like as we say with like Bill Nighy's love. And when we cut to the shot of Tim, we have got Bill Nighy's arm still taking up most of the frame.
A lot of the frame, yeah.
Which feels awkward and uncomfortable as the moment is.
Yeah, this they do a good job of framing this scene, so it's weird and uncomfortable.
I think I focus an awful lot often on Richard Curtis as a writer, but like his directing in this is really good.
Yeah, he does things like this a few times in this movie, where he frames it in the way that makes it work better.
And I think it's almost, I would debatably say, this is better in directing than a lot of the artsy stuff where you notice it, because I think if you don't notice it and it just makes you feel a certain way, then it's more successful.
Mm-hmm. The interesting thing also is with the dad's arm is his arm is like elbow out, hand at his side, so that it's also framing a picture that I think is the mother on the table. And so it drew my eye there, even though it's blurry. But but my eye was drawn to this blurry photograph. I'm like, that's weird. But like,
the black and white.
Did that on purpose.
Yeah, the black and white picture on. Is that the one that we're talking about, or the
one under
Tim?
his arm?
Yeah.
When the dad's arm is bent, there's a picture right underneath his arm.
Hang on, is that the two on the table? There's two on one.
A minute running.
And there's. Oh yeah, well, you can only see one when it's under his arm. Yeah.
Yeah. But you can't tell what the picture is, but my eye was drawn there because the visual of his arm, and I think that's deliberate. He's making us get uncomfortable too.
And when you cut back to the shot of Bill Nighy, as well as like the B.B. King pictures, surrounded by books and junk in the corner, is what looks like a picture of who I assume is the mother on her wedding day.
In a wedding dress, yeah.
Yeah. I do love just all that junk in the corner, because it feels real.
Actually, the picture on the table could even be Tim, younger.
That's one of the other things I was thinking. It's either Tim, and the other picture you can't see at all.
You can see it in a different shot.
But it's not that clear as to what it is anyway. Unless it's just...
No, it looks like it's multiple people, but you can't tell what it is.
Yeah. I'm using the preview version on the Dropbox anyway, so it's not the full HD, so whether that makes any difference, I don't know. Maybe next week I'll have my Blu-ray playing on the other screen so I can full on.
Yeah, maybe you'll be able to tell exactly what these things are.
So, unless we have any other notes for this minute, it's time for our Friday segment that I haven't given a name to. Does it need a name?
He doesn't name what he can do in the movie, does he?
No.
Like, Father just says he can travel through time. Tim does it, but he never has, it's always like, yeah, give me a minute, and he walks away. Because he doesn't talk about it with anyone.
Could we call it Give Me a Minute? Because we've taken a minute off.
Yeah, maybe.
That's our working title. Working title, that's another pun, there we go. Our working title for this segment is Give Me a Minute.
Yeah.
And I'll ask you first, Robert. Is there any moment in your life which, given the ability, you would go into a dark room, close your eyes, clench your fists, think of that moment and go back in time to relive it and either re-experience it or change something about it?
My initial impulse is not one that I'd want to change, but I think it'd be great to be there again. It was a time in San Francisco before I got married with my then future wife out in the park. It was really nice. Very simple. Not much going on.
So, almost like, I guess, like at the end of the film when he goes back to the moment with, Tim and his dad, just a nice, sweet
just hang out and do a thing. Yeah.
For me, it's possibly going to sound really stupid, but I'll say it anyway. For me, it'll be one of the times I went to the Doctor Who experience in Cardiff, because it closed a couple of years ago, and I just have so many good memories of being there, especially at the point of the height of my Doctor Who fandom. It was a great thing walking around all the interactive stuff, and I just like that sort of that little nostalgia tingle and sort of feeling that I get whenever I sort of think about it and how great it was, and how kind of sad that what I'm pretty sure was like the main tourist attraction in Cardiff has been shut down. Because I genuinely don't think... I mean, Cardiff's it's the capital of Wales. There is other things, but I do genuinely think that their main draw, especially from international people and tourists, that's the word, especially from tourists, was to go to the Doctor Who experience. Because being in the centre of Cardiff, it's so close to all the other locations and stuff from the show. Including Yanto from Torchwood. When his character died, there is a shrine in Cardiff dedicated to his character where fans write letters and stick up pictures of him as if he's a real person.
Is the shrine still there?
Yeah, it's still... Well, as far as I'm aware,
Okay.
yeah. Yes, it is. Yes, because I've seen on some of the Torchwood cast go down there every now and again and take a look at it. And it won an award for one of the best kept places in Cardiff because people just put this memorial up to a dead character.
That's funny.
Yeah. So that would be the moment I go back in time to. We might both have changed our answers by the end of the series anyway.
But yeah.
And I'm sure we can pop back in regularly on this segment. So, I guess they've just listened to the first week of the podcast.
Now, normally at this point, with a guest, we'd have them talking about one of the minutes we covered last week, but since the movie just started, there aren't any.
Yeah. Are we specifically doing it just from the last week, or are we going to pick a minute at random from another point in the film?
We can figure that out as we go. The first couple I picked minutes from just the previous week, just because there's not much to pick from. Later, there might be important minutes we want to come back to multiple times, because get lots of different guests talking about the same thing. Depends.
I think we could even be clever at some points and, have, like say the moment when they go back to when we're doing the minutes where they go back to the party, we could go and do one of the party minutes again. And do,
compare the two versions or something, yeah.
Yeah, we can be clever, and which they might not know listening to these first couple of episodes, but we can be clever. But yeah, this has been fun. It's exciting for me to finally talk about what, in all fairness, is my favourite film. However many times people have found it silly that I've referred to this as my favourite film. It's not a perfect film by any means, but it doesn't stop it from being a good film. A good film is just one where you get to look past its imperfections.
Yeah.
So, Robert, where can our listeners find you on social media?
Robert E.G. Black on social media, or links to my shows and my blog and everything else on lemmingdrops.com.
And the listeners can find me on social media, on Twitter at llama_bottle0, on Instagram at thegingerluke. All of my podcasts, radio appearances, short films, articles, everything that I'm involved with in any little way is probably on lukeallen.co.uk. And if they want to find this podcast, they can find it on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at 2 Mins About Time. Thank you so much for listening this week, and we'll be back next week with a special guest. The 2 Minutes About Time theme is performed by Ethan O'Mahony and is a cover of the About Time theme originally composed by Nick Laird-Close. 2 Minutes About Time is a production of Lemming Drop Studios in association with Bottle O Productions. Welcome to 2 Minutes About Time, the podcast that analyses and reviews and discusses and tangents and all that. I might start again, that didn't sound good. Welcome to 2 Minutes About Time, the podcast that breaks down, analyses, reviews and discusses the Richard Curtis classic, but still modern, film About Time. The intros will get better as we go along.
Yeah.
I'm Luke Allen. I'm one of your hosts, and with me is Robert Black.
Yeah, your co-host.
Do I introduce you as Robert Black or Robert E.G. Black? What's the way I realise we've a couple of
I'd say go with the E.G. in case someone Googles me.
Yeah, there's a lot of Robert Blacks.
And you know who? And you know which one comes up first. I don't know if you're familiar with him. It's a British serial killer. So
we'll stick with the EG then.
Yeah.
We'll go. I might as well just restart the intro, to be honest. Right. Take 3. Welcome to 2 Minutes About Time, the podcast that breaks down, analyses, and just. Sorry. Okay.
If you want outtakes for the end, there you go.